So I asked ChatGPT to define overlanding. It gave me a pretty good answer. And it said self-reliant vehicle-based travel to remote destinations where the journey is the primary goal. I couldn't have come up with a better definition given 10 years to think about it. And yes, I had to get that chair out twice to get this shot. Let me grab some sunglasses. It is hot, 97 degrees, and that sun is bright. So to all the impatient people watching, yes, I'm going to discuss an overland build for under $10,000. Just skip ahead in the video. We'll get there, I promise. There's probably some new people here that don't quite understand what it is, and I think it's important to discuss that because if you're not taught, nobody ever knows. So anyway, overlanding. It's using the vehicle you got, going to remote locations, off the beaten path. You know, we've all been to a state park or something, seen those normal campsites, and we pitched a tent or pulled in an RV or something like that. But overlanding, at least in my opinion, is an element of off-road with a long cruise through the countryside, up in a national forest or BLM land or a state park, through Forest Service roads and things of that nature until you get to a good spot to camp, pull over, do some dispersed camping out of the bed of your truck, entirely self-reliant. You've got your own food, your own water, your own sleeping arrangements. And the best part about all this is it's almost always free. We have millions of acres of land, hundreds of square miles of land that are public lands here in the United States. And most of us never use them. The amount of land that's BLM land or National Forest Service land with all these old trails, Forest Service roads, all of that is our land. It's my land. It's your land. And I think it's wise if we could put that to use, actually start utilizing the land that you and I actually own. And that's what overlanding is about. Setting up a vehicle to be self-sufficient, to go down bad roads. I'm an off-road guy. I like to off-road. I can mix some of that in there. So off-roading, going and seeing cool mountains and deserts and Rocky Mountain area in New Mexico, Nevada, Arizona. I like the outdoors. I like to, fly fish. I like to camp and take all of that and condense it into one umbrella term. And now we have overlanding. My camera shut off twice due to the heat from being in the sun. So I guess we're going to do a boring shot of doing this inside and from the shade. So the categories that we're going to break this whole overlanding setup down into are pretty simple. A vehicle, safety and first aid, navigation and communication, sleep, eat, recovery, and repair. We'll go through and break all these down. Let's start with the truck. Okay, so I said truck, but make no mistake, you can overland in anything. Your Corolla will do just fine. You can go all the way to the infinity into this and be in this massive built 4x4 buggy with a rooftop tent on the back doing huge rock crawling trails. I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in is, Forest Service roads, some 2-track trails that are, easy to moderate. That's what I'm looking for. You really want a 4-wheel drive. A 2-wheel drive might be able to make it, but a skilled 4-wheel drive driver absolutely will. If you've never done it before, I do want to caution you to start out slow. A lot of people think the perfect vehicle for this is, like a Jeep or a 4Runner or a Tacoma, and they're not wrong. Me personally, I like pickups. I like my trucks. So I'm probably going to start shopping for a pickup truck. It's going to take up a good chunk of the budget on this, but I think we can get by and get something that's pretty good. I want an extended cab, 4-wheel drive, preferably a 3/4 ton truck. I'll look and see what's out there. I haven't started shopping for it yet, but that starts today. Why don't I use the truck that I already have? I could. I very well could. And depending on how long it takes me to find what I'm looking for, I'm probably going to use that truck. There's no reason it won't work absolutely perfectly. So what about safety and first aid for the next one? Remember, the whole goal of this is to be somewhere remote. If something happens, you're going to have to take care of it. You could start out with just a basic boo-boo kit and you'd probably be okay. But I recommend getting something quite a bit more than that, like a OSHA approved first aid kit. at minimum. You can build one yourself. You can put one together yourself. I recommend you probably just Bear Independent over at Refuge Medical. They don't have any idea who I am. They sell the best trauma kits available on earth, period. But be able to take care of your own safety and first aid. And that includes treating heat injuries and cold injuries and things like that. Dehydration. Keep all that stuff in mind. Like I said, we're remote and primitive. You need to keep that in mind the entire time. Now, because we're remote, chances are your phone's not going to be working. So now we need to discuss comms and navigation. Because if you did things right, your end goal is for your phone not to work. If it works, you ain't deep enough in there and you need to get farther away from people. At least that's the way I see it. So some two-way radios or CBs or Baofangs or ham radio, pick what you think is going to work and roll with that, and make sure everybody in your party has one, because this is a whole lot more fun to do with two vehicles than it is just one. Navigation. There's a lot of apps and stuff like that that you can download, offline maps to use with your phone, your GPS or something like that. Onyx is probably the most popular one. As far as I understand, they're probably the best ones to give actual trail maps. So if you're on a 2-track and it splits, you don't know where to go, your Onyx can keep you from driving on somebody's private land and getting a shotgun pointed at you. It's probably a good idea, especially if you're on government land, to have some sort of a map from either BLM or the Forest Service or whatever public land you're on, or paid off-road park or whatever. Get a paper map, have a decent idea of how to use a compass so you just don't get lost. Well, you don't have to be an expert at orienteering, but at least try not to get lost. Be able to figure out where you're at. More importantly, figure out how to get back home. What about your sleeping situation? You know, I think the ultimate goal for, overlanding is to have a rooftop tent, either mounted on the roof or a bed rack in your truck. Those are awesome. I want one, and I'm eventually going to buy one. I don't have one right now, and I'm not going to let that stop me from enjoying myself. If you've got a truck, you can sleep in the cab. You can recline the seats. You can do what I've normally done and throw a ground tent on the ground. It's a little less convenient, but it works just fine. If you've got a bench seat, a lot of times you can just lay across that thing and sleep 2 adults just fine. What am I going to do? I'm going to either throw a ground tent on the ground or I'm just going to sleep in the cab. It'd be nice to have a rooftop tent or one of those super small off-road campers with 33-inch tires, but I'm not spending $20,000 on one of those things. Rooftop tent, maybe. We'll see how this goes. I might decide to buy one. I'd really like to. A bed of a truck with a truck cap on it, and bam, there's your instant camper right there. Plus it keeps all your stuff from getting covered in dust and bugs and everything else. How about food and water? Let's go there next. Food, water, and we'll throw cooking into this one as well. Once again, we are remote. It may be a 2-hour drive to the store. So you're going to have to bring all your food and water in with you. If you're going to be out there for very long, you better have a way to filter new water. If you're in the desert, there may not be new water. So a couple of cases of water, throw them in there with you. I like to fill up an Igloo Home Depot job site cooler. It works amazing. I fill it halfway with ice and halfway with water. Then I've got cold water for pretty much the entire trip. I only use that for drinking and nothing else. You can go any way you want on the food. This fly is going to make me stop this video. You can just do the freeze-dried stuff that you add hot water to. Or if you're anything like me, hey man, for the first couple days, I like to take a steak or grill a burger or do something good. You're taking your own cooking equipment with you. There's no reason you can't do that. And shove all that stuff in a good quality cooler, and it's going to last. You don't have to worry about that stuff going bad for a few days. Eggs, especially if they're farm fresh, will keep for a long time. And it's a quick and easy breakfast to get up and make. Throw it on a cast iron skillet. Grab a skillet from your house, from your kitchen. It doesn't matter. As long as you're not cooking over an open fire, which a lot of times there's fire bans in the place that we like to go, it works just fine. You can do that also. I like to use just a Coleman camp stove, but kind of sort through the options and figure out how you're going to cook, store, and prepare your meals. Do not forget to take care of that water. 2 gallons per person per day if you're going in a desert. If it's just a short trip, You might be able to get by with a gallon, but I still like 2 gallons. Recovery gear. We're remote. The best recovery gear is your buddy that you brought with you in another vehicle, another rig. But you're going to need some simple, essential things. I'm not going to include a winch in this because, I would like to have one, but I currently don't. But having something like a high lift jack, a come along, a couple of chains, and a tow strap. Maybe some traction boards if you want. I don't have them because I've never really noticed that they've done much good. A way to jack your truck up, like a good solid floor jack with some boards to set it on, or a bottle jack, because the jack that came with your rig isn't going to work in the soft sand or pretty much any time you get it off of anything other than a hard-packed, well-maintained gravel or dirt road. Don't expect any of that stuff to work anywhere else, especially if it got wet. A way to change a tire. A lot of times we like to air down our tires. Having a way to re-inflate them is absolutely amazing. Driving around with 60 pounds of air in your tires across washboard roads will beat you to death. It'll beat your rig to death, and you'll lose out on a lot of traction and just wind up tearing up the trails, even if you can make it up there. You know your skill level, and there's plenty of resources online to look through, so I'll let you come up with that. I'm going to do an individual video on all of this stuff, while I'm getting the rig built, so you can stick around and catch some of that when the time comes. How about repairs? Because, you're off-road, even if it's just a washboardy gravel road that's pretty well maintained, chances are something might rattle loose. You're off in the desert, you're up in the mountains, you're remote. That's the very definition of all this, is being remote and away from other people. So having an extra serpentine belt, basic set of hand tools to replace most roadside repairs on your vehicle. Sockets, wrenches, screwdrivers, maybe a pry bar, some breaker bars. I've got a cordless impact, so I'm going to keep that too. And make sure your stuff is in good shape before you go. Fluids, I like to keep enough, and I always did keep enough to do a whole oil change on the side of the road, on the trail if I needed to. I never had to, but there are a few times I had to loan out some oil to some people that were with me. How about comfort and support items? That's things like lawn chairs, lanterns, lights, a little table to cook your food on, something to set your camp stove on, just the stuff for the time you spend around camp. Having a tarp to string up to give you some shade to sit under, or maybe if it starts raining, get you out of that rain, or snowing for that matter. Think about how you're going to, do your normal life stuff around camp whenever you're set up. How are you going to clean yourself? Some baby wipes or something. A tent is probably a pretty good deal for that. You could do it in the cab of a truck, but it gives you a little bit more privacy in some type of a tent or a camper shell on your truck or something. But that's one of the things you're going to need to take care of also, is cleaning yourself with some sort of wipes, as well as cleaning up around camp. Get some Lysol or some disinfectant spray, wipe down your cutting boards, clean your dishes. As long as you carry good dishes, you'll probably be okay. Scrub some ice around in them. It'll normally break stuff up. Coffee. It's kind of nice to have some coffee. If you're not a coffee person, hot chocolate. Have a way to do that. Dishes, plates, just your normal stuff for your comfort and support items. Then we start looking at research and planning. Where are you going to go? How are you going to get there? Because the way this stuff normally works is you drive for several hours down a highway until you get to a spot that's a Forest Service road. You turn off on that. You may drive for 2 hours on that, come out to another highway that takes you to a piece of, BLM land that's got a 2-track trail. Drive for an hour or two, set up camp, wake up, and start again. Cruise on around in there, do all your sightseeing, side quests like hiking, and stop off at a river to do some fly fishing until you get to another highway. That highway you need to stop, and where are you going to get gas or diesel? Where are you going to get your fuel? Is your propane full? Plan this stuff out in advance. This isn't a straightforward thing. It's going to take some research for you to come up with a good trip that's going to be fun and feel like an expedition. 90% of the trips I did, I was just going one place, there and back. Like, I'm going to go to the Rosita Flats area here in a couple weeks whenever I actually pick out a truck. I may take the truck I've got now. I don't know. It's fun. but I'm familiar with that area and I know how much fuel I'm going to burn and everything else like that. But if you haven't been somewhere before, plan out your fuel stops and just know going slow in four-wheel drive through two-track trails and shelf roads, you're going to use a lot more fuel than normal. So plan for that. It wouldn't be a bad idea, even if you know you can do the whole trip on less than a half tank of gas, to carry a couple jerry cans with you. I'm going to do that anyway, and I suggest you do the same. So yeah, y'all come on. Y'all join along. I want to hear some advice and criticism and everything else in the comments, because I'm excited to get started with this. I want to bring y'all along for every step of the way, but I'm excited to get started. Y'all come along and tell me if this is something that you do as well.